to all those above me that watch over me, to all of you, my fave pair of peeps on this side of the veil, welcome. This is Father Sean Whittington's Paranormal Ministry Live. I'm your host, Father Sean. Before I get started, I want everybody to keep my co-producer, Adrienne Clayton, the wife of Zach Clayton, in your prayers. She had an accident, I assume. I hate to assume. I'm not sure. But I do know that Zach had to rush her to the hospital. So we were lucky enough to have one of the busiest people on the planet, um, Jeremy York, founder of Things Network. We're lucky to have him fill in for Zach and run the show today. So if anything goes wrong, it's all Jeremy's fault. Anyway, having said that, he knows I'm joking, I hope. Um, so please keep Adrienne in your prayers, and we hope that she'll do well. And as soon as I know something, you all will know something, but keep her in your prayers. Who is Father Sean? Well, I'm an ordained Catholic priest with the United States Old Catholic Church. I'm a fully professed brother in the Old Catholic Benedictines of Immaculate Mary. I'm a team member of the Society of St. Benedict and co-founder of Ghost Be Gone. If there's anything you want to know about my wife and I and our ministry work, go to our website, www.ghost-b-gone.biz. When you go there to visit, keep in mind my wife and I don't charge for our ministry work, helping people with their paranormal issues. So trust me, brothers and sisters, I know times are tough. But if you're there on the website visiting and you happen to notice the donate button and you're able to, click on it and send my ministry in a small donation. I promise you it'll be appreciated from the bottom of our hearts. And trust me, we'll put it to good use. Everything's there. Both my books are there. God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry, and God, Ghosts, and the Paranormal Ministry 2. And if you get them off the website, they're a little more expensive than on Amazon, but they come autographed and closed in a house blessing kit, and you can get them less expensive at Amazon. They're available at both places. But what I love about it is any sale from any copy of any of my books off of the website, part of the proceeds go to support stjude.org, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, Nevada, and the ASPCA. So how cool is that? My course is on the website, Introduction to Spiritual Warfare. You can enroll in the course there. If you want more information about the course before making that type of commitment, there is a Sean Whittington's Introduction to Spiritual Warfare course, online course, Facebook page. You can go there and read about the course. And then there's also a place on there where you can make an appointment to speak with me about your spiritual issues, not paranormal, but spiritual issues. And I'd be more than happy to make an appointment for you and speak with you about those issues. Okay, I think that's my song and dance. I'm lucky on Fridays, you all know, to have not only do we have a wonderful guest today, and I know that's why you all pulled in and he's waiting in the green room. But before I bring out my very special guest for today, I have a very special co-host every Friday. And that's another reason why you guys tune in. And I knew that because who wants to see just me week after week after week by myself? So without further ado, she's my friend. I love her. I respect her. She's the owner of Stellium Books, my publisher, the one and only Annette Munich. What are you doing? You're muted. Hit your mute button.
I'm muted. Oh,
There you
okay.
go. There
Sorry,
you go.
I was coughing earlier. I did that.
That's
So,
okay.
hi to everybody. And wonderful to be here. Wonderful guest today. And, yes, of course, people want to hear what you have to say week after week after week after week after week.
You know, sometimes I bore myself.
Well, that's because you already know what you're going to say.
You should sit in on some of the conversations I have with myself.
Well,
Anyway, you look very pretty today. I'm so glad you were able to make it. I'm so glad you're okay. You know, it
thanks.
really these things kind of snowball. You know, it's like when eh, so I'm hoping all my friends are safe this long Memorial Day weekend coming up. And on that note, I'll wish everybody out there a happy Memorial Day weekend. Be safe. It's not as crazy as the 4th of July weekend. Um, and Jeremy, I'll talk to you later about your Jeremy's coming out here 4th of July for a big to Vegas, that is, for a big bowling tournament. So you never know. My life's crazy. I don't know if we'll be able to hook up, but I'll talk to you. I'll send you some messages after the show, Jeremy, and we could talk about your trip out here. I know you got to run right after the show's over, so we'll talk before your trip out here, Jeremy, and see if we might be able to make that happen. Before we bring out Carl, is there anything you'd like to bring people up to speed on with Stellium Books or any of your other talented authors that are out there?
The latest book that we put out is called Into Darkness by Krista Florio, and he was on the week before last, and that shows on YouTube if anybody wants to take a listen. He was really interesting. He was on with his wife Harmony, and
That was
then
a great show.
yeah, it really was. It was a good show, really interesting. So
Really good show. Good for
that,
him.
and I'd also like to wish everybody a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Yeah.
Well, listen, are you ready for our guest?
I hope so. I better
Oh,
be.
well, this is the first time you're meeting him. Not only does he have the most wonderful professional speaking voice, he should be on radio or have his own podcast and be on all the time. But I've known him a long time. I love him and respect him too. He's not only a lifetime paranormal experiencer, but in my humble opinion, and I know quite a few, in my humble opinion, he's probably one of the most elite and knowledgeable Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Janosqua authorities out there. And he's brought some pictures and he's got some stories to tell, but we're going to have fun. So, brothers and sisters, without further ado, please give a big, warm paranormal ministry family welcome to the one and only KARL SUP.
Hey, everybody.
Hi,
What are you
Carl.
doing?
So great having you today. So wonderful. Looking
Thanks.
forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay, Carl, like we talked about this in the green room. I purposely only made a few questions because I want Annette to be able to ask.
He says this every week.
I say
Yeah.
this every week, and I go on and on and on. But I want her to have an opportunity to chat with you. But I'm excited, man. You sent us. Actually, I counted them. I have about 14 photos. I was able to send 7 of them for Zach to upload, and then he forwarded them to Jeremy. So we'll get to that. But before we get to that, um, you know, I'm still right now only a big fan of the cloaking theory,
hmm
the infrasound theory of Bigfoot. Everything else I'm on the fence about because it changes. I love the new show that's out there. Guess they're on hiatus now. Expedition Bigfoot. I love that show. I've loved them all, but I really do like Expedition Bigfoot. You need your own show.
That would
I'm
be fun.
serious.
That would be fun.
But I'm going to shut up now, and I would like you to tell everybody. It's a two-part question. Old techniques of squatching that aren't being used anymore, and new techniques that you feel are producing results.
Well, I mean, I've had a lot of results. So as far as old techniques, there's still a lot of people out there using those old techniques, and really at the core of all of those techniques is I'm going to try to fool the Sasquatch, all right? Or I'm gonna try to fool them. So I'll draw them in by fooling them. I'll do, and what ends up happening is then, of course, if you heard something and you said I'm going to walk, I, oh, I've got a friend over here, and I walk 5 miles to get to you, and I get up there and I go, oh, it's a human screwing around with me, right? I'm going to start throwing sticks and rocks at you, because it's like I just spent all that time, especially while hiking through I mean, just try to think of it as, from a perspective of if they were a person, because honestly, they truly are people. They're just different than us. And I know everybody, there's people that buy into like North American great ape theory, and that they're monkeys, and there's people that say that there's no way they could live in the deciduous forests of North America. And it's like, last time I checked, I'm a Homo sapien. You know, I and certainly if we scroll time back, into the 15, 16, 1700s, right? I mean, people were forging a life and food and everything else out of the wilderness, right? Ohio Valley, etc. So a lot of those people are, I call them deniers. But as far as those old techniques, I mean, they really need to die, and the hinge of that really is the fact that people don't respect who they are. They think they're a what or an it, and they have to treat them as if you're in their living room, and that's and work with them that way. That's one of the reasons why I do like Expedition Bigfoot a lot, because they approach it from more of a scientific perspective, and that's what I've always done. And I want to prove something. If I see something and I'm not sure about it, or I think, oh, this is what's happened here, whatever, I'll take 100 measurements and follow up photos and etc. in order to debunk anything that I've come up with. I mean, actually, using science, right?
Yeah.
Scientific method. So
Let me ask you this real quick, and then I'm going to let
sure.
Annette, because I've never even asked Annette if she believes in Bigfoot, so we're about to find out. But let me ask you this question. There is something else I like. I don't know the name of it, so forgive me, the technique. But on Expedition Bigfoot, they brought in an expert that had this 3D scanning thing that was almost like it's way beyond. It's like infrared on steroids, 3D type scan thing that they did, and they caught some images on that. Do you know what that is called?
Well, they had like a thermal drone, I know, at one point, and then they
Yeah,
also
they
had
had those.
a 3D scanner that they could actually scan footprints without taking casts, and then
It's
they would get
like
it.
that, but it actually does the landscape.
Oh, maybe I must have missed that.
Yeah, I'll find that
It's like
episode and
there's
I'll send
lidar
you a
that
piece
does
of that.
that.
That's it. That's it. LiDAR.
Okay, all right.
That's it. Do you like that?
Um, I do like that. I think lidar really can show us a lot of features that we can't see under all the brush, and it strips everything away from that. I know that there's been a lot of effigy mounds that have been found all over the Midwest that have been discovered because, well, their forests have sprung up over them over 3, 4, 5, 600 years since they were created, or more, in a lot of cases. But and that really, it's really interesting, especially some of the constructions of those recent effigy mounds that have been found. Where it's like, right, makes you scratch your head on where that,
Well,
on how those were
address
constructed.
let's address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
I'm a big time, you know me. I'm a big time Sasquatch believer. I do believe I had an encounter
I
when I
think
was
you
in
did
junior
too.
high school on a hiking expedition, an overnight hiking expedition when I was in junior high school. Here's the thing: where do you sit on infrasound and the cloaking? Because I've seen these cameras from some of these experts capture shadows and stuff that would normally be coming off of something that would be right in front of the camera, but there's nothing there. But in the background, you see the shadow, and it's not shadow figures.
Right.
Um, and the infrasound. I've told you that famous story of the friend of mine who's was out hiking in the wilderness with her dogs, and she had a little bit of loss of time there. And when she got back, she didn't think much of it. Till days later, a friend of hers said, on all these hikes you go to, you ever run into Bigfoot? And all of a sudden, it was like that jarred a memory, and she had this vision of the last hike she went on. She saw one by a creek, possibly fishing, and it looked up at her and psychically told her, "You don't see me. Go home." And the thing was her dogs didn't even react to it. And they saw it, and they all just continued on their hike and went home. But she had that loss of time and loss of memory until the vision came back because it was triggered by her friend asking her if she'd ever seen one. So where are you on the infrasound and the cloaking?
Sure. So infrasound, loss of time. There was one incident where two individuals, myself included, um, actually lost time. And I was walking to my car, and she was walking to her car in a different direction. And I suddenly, the only thing I could say is I woke up, and I was standing in front of some bushes, just like I had walked right up to the bushes and just stopped there. And it was dark, it was night, and it was just like, how did I get here? And it's like, oh, there's the car over there 100 feet away from me. uh, and she had a similar experience walking back to her van. And as far as infrasound goes, definitely, I've been hit multiple times. Also, at one research site in Texas, there was some recordings of Sasquatch speaking. They were having a conversation in this one thing, and as I was trying to clean up that audio and get the their text, to try to hear them better, because it was pretty faint. I started feeling sicker, and I just felt wheezy and dizzy, but I kept at it until I had cleaned it up pretty good. But then I was like, that was really strange. Let me look at this thing. So I put it on a spectrum analyzer, the clip that I had cleaned up, and I could see a bunch of stuff in the 16 to 18 hertz range in that audio. And then when I actually cleaned that up, boosted it up into an audible range, I kid you not, it sounded like a didgeridoo. It was like like that. And that was, like I said, on the talking clip, I put a warning thing on there saying, do not listen to this with headphones at high volume, because it really, stirred me for a while. But then I was in actually the woods of Long Island, New York, not like not some other Long Island, and I was actually hit by infrasound there that crumbled me to my knees. But prior to that, I saw a thermal hit in the woods. It hid into this thing. I was seeing, this was a dumb technique then, right? I was still fairly early on in my research, but I really more or less pursued it, right? And then it was like, okay, well, if you're if you're chasing me, guess what? And thankfully it let up, when I actually managed to, because I couldn't even talk, but I managed to squeeze out the word friend. And the moment I said that, it was like it released me, and I barely got up, and I said, I'm leaving, bye. And I got in the car and I left the area, and I went and I sat for just in the car down the road for about an hour before I had my bearings straight. It was,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, Annette, I'm going to put your feet to the fire. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Where are you on the whole Bigfoot Sasquatch thing?
I believe in Bigfoot, and I'm really fascinated by it. And I've watched Expedition Bigfoot, and there was another show I like to watch on Travel Channel called Terror in the Woods, and they had a lot of Bigfoot episodes.
That's right. I forgot about that. That was a good series.
Yeah, and a lot of like cameras fixed to trees, and then go back and you would see them. And one thing I wanted to say is I had a paranormal radio show of 2009 to 2013. And at that time, there were a lot of people. I'm one of them. I haven't seen Bigfoot, but there were a lot of people that had paranormal experiences and also had UFO experiences or Bigfoot experiences, and they felt like they had to choose one thing to talk about, because if you said, I've seen ghosts and I've seen Bigfoot, then you were for sure crazy. Like, people just could not expand their mind to that degree. But it seems like there's people that tend to, if you're sensitive to your environment, then you're sensitive to the possibility of all these things. And I've seen 2 UFOs, but with the Bigfoot, there's people that think they're demons, and there's people that think that they're interdimensional beings, and all kinds of theories like that. What do you think about them moving between dimensions? Because we never found a dead one, I don't think. Have we ever found a dead one?
I am 99% certain that they bury their dead, and I think that was actually because they've been around for a lot longer than us. I mean, I'm not talking like 1,000 years longer than humans, right? I'm talking probably 100,000 years longer. They, I think some of their, some of the things that they do, I think we learned from them. So I think that it was learned, okay, we're going to bury our dead. It was, the Vikings had this wonderful thing of saying we're going to stick somebody on a bunch of sticks and set them on fire, but I think overall, I think that was, I think that they bury their dead, but I do, there's been a lot of what I would say anecdotal evidence or evidence that I can't dismiss because I know the researchers where, as far as cloaking or interdimensional, where there's been a flash of light and a Bigfoot stepped out of this light, I can't explain that, and I trust the person that witnessed it. I haven't witnessed anything like that personally, but and I've witnessed plenty of Bigfoots in different states. So it's that's something that the jury's still out for me, but I certainly can't dismiss the eyewitness accounts that are out there.
It's so curious because it's not just people see a Bigfoot or get a picture of one, like it's just this creature that we don't understand that, keeps to itself in woodland areas or swamp areas or whatever. They blend into the background. Desert.
Yep. Yeah.
But there are like little paranormal things that happen around them too. Like you were saying, you experience a loss of time.
Yep.
You experience kind of a mind connection.
Yep. That's happened to me, actually.
Yeah. That's more than just I saw a funny creature,
Oh yeah. No, they're like I said, I think that they're a lot older than us, or at least, they're, based on the DNA samples that have been taken, the samples that were tested and sequenced actually showed that like 15,000 years ago there was an unknown hominid mated with a human female. Okay, so and I know my friend M.K. Davis always talks about the true giants, which are even taller, 14 foot tall, and that there's still some of those, but but most of the Bigfoots that we see in different areas are really hybrids, of humans and whatever this, ancient hominid was, right? But there's still some of those ancient hominids out there as well. So, the fact that DNA showed that it was around, and I'm probably going to be a little off, but I'll just ballpark it, 99.3%. The same as our DNA. Okay, so whatever it's in that 0.7, right, percent. But the sad part is, of course, is that is close enough and closer than any other, because I think chimpanzees, I think, are like 98% the same as us, right? So that 99.3, it's within a 1% uh, uh, whatever margin of error that DNA analysis could do with, so if you give a sample to a lab and you say test this, like for instance, I still have blood samples in my freezer here from about 10 years ago. But if I gave it to somebody, they'd say, oh, it's human, or it's human contaminated because it fell within a 1% margin of error. And it could be dismissed. I don't want to see them, my samples destroyed. So if anybody has a DNA lab out there, contact me and we'll talk.
Very cool. Very cool. I don't want to run out of time before we get to your pictures. Do you mind if I start having Jeremy throw the pics up one at a time?
Bring them up.
You sent me about 14 of them. I was able to send.
I would love to see the pictures. And I also want to say, right now I'm living in Oklahoma by Tulsa, and there's a place called Ida Bell, and they have this enormous Bigfoot sign out there. It's like 30 feet tall, and it's very cool. It's close to Texarkana. So I don't know. I just thought I'd throw that out there. I think there's a community around that area too.
You're in a good area there. For sure.
While we're just throwing stuff out there, I have just a quick funny story for you. Last March, I was in a church retreat in Illinois, out in the woods. And we're going there again April of next year. And now I'm certain that all of my clergy partners and churchgoers that were there think I'm legitimately crazy now, because when you go out your door of your, the rooms we were in, out there is Sasquatch's backyard. And there was a bad storm. We were even actually under a tornado watch at one point. High winds, a little bit of hail, heavy rain. But right when you walk out my door, I was just joking when I said hi to all the Sasquatches, feel free to let me know you're here. We're here to do whatever, being silly. But after that first night when I woke up and went out my door the first morning, I'm staring straight on. Now there's a lot of smaller trees around it that didn't get even blown over or broke. But there's a tree that was too big for me to even get my arms around, that was snapped, and the bottom part of it flipped over and stuck upside down in the ground, right in front of my room.
Yeah.
And so I told everybody, look, Sasquatch is saying hello to all of us and welcoming us here. They all think I'm legitimately crazy now, but I couldn't stop thinking about that. Who knows?
Yep.
I saw that in that Terror in the Woods show, that they take trees and turn them upside down.
Yep, they do.
This tree was snapped. The top part was discarded, and the bottom part, which was probably, half as tall as my house, was flipped upside down. Now, if a tornado came through, I would say I wouldn't even bring this up, but
even for a tornado, that's odd behavior for a tornado. So
and I just thought it was so funny because I had said hi to them. I had a conversation with the Sasquatch before I went to bed that night. Like, don't.
You're the Bigfoot whisperer, Sean.
Okay, Jeremy, do you got a picture to throw at us, brother? Jeremy, Jeremy, did you leave us?
He's working towards it.
Okay, one of them will probably. I named them silly things because I couldn't think of anything else. But you had this one fantastic widescreen landscape photo of what I called Skull Island, because I know you're out in the middle of the desert, but there's like a lake around most of this area that actually looks very Skull Islandish, and there was two photos off of that if we get them up, I'm going to have people look at the first one, and you're not going to be able to tell, but then you have a close-up of this same spot where behind this set of boulders that almost look like they've been large boulders set to be kind of like a protective cubby. Behind it, there's tree structures.
Yep.
And then you have another photo behind that you called the Watcher.
Yep.
And I kid you not, there's a face, that much of a face looking out from behind something. But it's so you can see the shine off the eye. You can make out, that part of a face of something, but it's so camouflaged in. That's what they do. But you've got a great
And the thing
footprint.
was, of course, yeah, I went back and took additional photos there almost a month and a half later, and whatever that wasn't there anymore. So, and the crew that I took out, or the people that went with me the last time, or about 6 weeks ago, actually, they, at that one point they said, I feel like I'm being watched, right? So then at that time I was looking for a way to get across the river in order to get a better picture of this nest, right? I could see from across the river that the nest had been built up more than it had when I first researched that area 10 years ago, right? And I have a picture where I'd gone 10 years ago, gone up and gone to that area, and that's where we found. That's how I knew this nest was in this area, and it's about 20 foot across. All this bamboo that had been broken, twisted, had been brought up into that area. I mean, there's nothing that would. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever messed with bamboo, but it's pretty tough stuff, right?
Yeah.
And to take it and snap it and twist it and and bring it up above the river. I mean, it wasn't like it was flotsam and got washed down into that area, whatever. That you could, in these pictures, you can see the water line of the high water mark. When the most water ends up flowing out of this dam. But it's it is.
Well, everything's there for them. You've got the water source, you've got the
Yeah.
wildlife, you've got the remoteness of it, areas to hide. But you also have a wonderful picture of like a living hut, a
Yes.
hut, a primitive type hut that was made that things live in. You got a picture of a handprint. Um,
Yeah.
One of the photos I love the most, hopefully we get it up, is that primitive fish trap built right on
Yeah.
the edge of where the ground is receding into the water area. There's a primitive fish trap. Indians don't do that, and neither do a regular hiker. If you got a hiker that happened to go out there,
There was a
I
tremendous amount of material that was moved from that, and I, I mean, it would have taken somebody all day to dig and build that, just
yeah.
on a whim. It just wouldn't happen. So
Well, let me try again. Jeremy, are you there? Jeremy's got a note down here at the bottom. For years, I've been wanting to use LiDAR for paranormal investigations. Yeah, LiDAR's intense. That would be good.
yeah,
Jeremy, are you there, brother? Maybe he had to run off and just keep us
no,
running for a while.
that's
Hopefully, we
okay.
get these pictures. I know I forwarded them to Zach. He uploaded them, and then he forwarded them to Jeremy. So hopefully, we'll get to them. But some great photos. What I'll do is, if we don't get the photos up for the live show, if you don't mind, I'll post them on my show
Sure.
page
No,
for
that's fine.
everybody to come back and take a look at afterwards. But some wonderful stuff.
Yeah,
Unfor-
and I was trying to find a photo from 10 years ago, and I couldn't. I know I've got it saved on one of my portable discs, but I was trying to look for that. But when we had hiked over to that side, I actually had one of the investigators that was with me at the time actually stand in the middle of this nest just to give a size comparison, and you'd literally see that photo and go, "Oh my," like it's huge,
well, knowing you as well as I do, and I don't know you real well. I've known you a long time, but
Yeah,
you probably have sent, knowing you've sent all those photos to all the guys to look at, and
yeah.
so you had all your guys come back at you. You wouldn't be sending me these photos if all your inner circle of guys that do what you do
Yep.
legitimize these
Oh,
photos.
yeah, yeah. Typically we don't do peer reviews on stuff like that, but but we definitely share all of our experiences and so forth. So, and to talk about, I know you talked about old techniques. New techniques. I mean, the things that I do nowadays are I will, especially the area that I go to a lot, I'll pull into campsite, I'll get out of the car, and I'll either I'll shout out, I'm here, or, and, it's, and, you know, I want to say probably 7 out of 10 times, there'll be a rock clack or a tree knock nearby, just that says, it's like, oh, okay, yep, we see you, or we know you're here. And if it's not within that first 20 minutes, it literally is, within probably 2-3 hours of that I'm there, that they'll come near camp and rock clack. And it's not about me setting up cameras and trying to trick them or whatever. I want the interaction. I want to learn how they, what they do, how they react to people, what's their, and it's, I don't know. I think it's a lot more rewarding. And then, of course, at night when I go to sleep, then they're like, okay, I'm brave enough. I'm going to come into camp, so,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, that's right. You sent me a wonderful photo of a handprint on your truck window.
Yes. Yep.
Hopefully
And that
we
was
can-
up in the
hopefully we can
mountains.
put it up.
That was up in the mountains of Arizona. And that handprint was from the tip of the pinky up down to the base of the thumb over here was 14 inches.
Wow.
So and that, my hand, it dwarfs my hand, and I'm 6'5", and I can palm a basketball, So there it is.
There we go.
There it is. Yep. So, and you can see the dermal ridges and everything in that. And in fact, that small line that's up near the tip of the pinky in the upper right corner, that's from my measuring tape, because what it did is made a handprint on the outside of the car, and then the whatever oils in their hand actually insulated the glass. So when it got cold outside, where I was sleeping inside the car, it actually insulated, so it didn't, the handprint didn't show.
It's one thing to be sleeping in your truck out in the middle of nowhere, and then if another camper came by or a kid and put his little hands on the window to look in there to see what's going on. But come on.
This
you got a giant handprint like that, you know what it is.
Yeah, and not only that, but this handprint was made somewhere between 3 a.m. and 5:15 a.m. because at 3 a.m. I woke up and actually saw a face in that same area that the handprint was in, looking at me, and it was only, I'll say, 14 to 16 inches away from my face. And it just kind of, as it was up close, it just kind of backed away into the darkness and moved back. But it was, 2.5 hours later, there's a handprint on the car. So,
well, if Jeremy's got it ready, I'm going to have him put up the widescreen photo of Skull Island.
There we go.
You got that photo, Jeremy? It's a widescrreen of what looks like Skull Island. We'll see if you can.
I hadn't thought about that until you said that, but yeah, it does.
Boom! There it is. Come on, look at that place.
Yep.
Now, as everybody looks at this, what I'm calling Skull Island, I want them to take their eyes and put it right in the middle of the picture, come down just a tad, and then over to the left, and you see that gathering of huge boulders there. I have Karl has also sent me a couple of close-ups of that spot there. And
Yep.
when Jeremy puts up those two photos, we'll show you what we found on those. Well, that's the photo of there we go.
Oh, here we go.
So a close-up of those boulders, you notice the tree structure nest behind it, which is phenomenal. And then there's one more photo that looks just like that, Jeremy, that has the red. There we go.
There it is.
Now, an even more close-up photo, you're calling this photo the Watcher. And what I find amazing about that photo is clearly, if you study it long enough, you see this much, probably this much.
Yeah, so if you zoom in on that where the red arrow is
one
pointing.
thing watching. Yeah,
You can go
that's
even closer there, and then come down a little bit. No,
the
no,
other way, brother.
up. I'm sorry, up.
Yeah,
There you go,
right in there.
right there.
Yeah, so you can see the head, see the eyeball, and it's just so. And they're so still. They're like statues. They're even stiller than statues. So there's never any
They're
movement.
incredibly still. And the thing they can't control is wind in their hair, and they can't control the sun or light glinting off their eyes. So it's kind of hard to pick them out sometimes. But like I
Yeah,
said, the group suddenly was saying we're feeling like we're being watched, and you know that's when these pictures were taken. So
and they're so. I mean, come on. They're uh, beside being the undisputed hide and seek champion of all time.
yep,
They're masters of. I've talked to indigenous people who have said they can be right in front of you, and you can smell them, you can hear them, but you just can't see them, and you know they're right in front of you. And on that note, I've had many indigenous people that I've talked to who have said that there's many clans on these reservations out on the outskirts of them in the wilderness because it's protected land. The
right,
government can't get on there and hunt them down.
yep.
That's very believable. And they don't lie. I mean, the Indians, the indigenous, have been
Oh yeah,
reporting interactions with these species of giant, hairy, humanoid creatures
absolutely.
since as far back as whenever,
Yeah,
whenever we.
on the White Mountain Apache Reservation here in Arizona, I mean I've found 19-inch prints. It wasn't me. My feet aren't that big,
I
but
want Jeremy to pull up the one that shows the close up of the lakes with the primitive fish trap um,
yeah, we can talk about that.
next to the water. Do you got that one, Jeremy? Yeah,
Yep.
look at that. Come on. When I first saw that, that stopped me in my tracks because that Indians don't do that, indigenous don't do that, and neither does hikers.
Like I
Um,
said, I know the picture is a little deceiving, but there was a lot of material moved with that, and
like somebody
unless
was
it
out there
was,
with a bobcat.
yeah, yeah, pretty much, and it was, it surprised me when I saw it, and this was 6 weeks ago, and when I went back there, the fish trap was not there anymore, so
Wow,
it was gone. So
that's amazing. I would like to see if Jeremy has it the birthing hut or the living hut
yep,
that you
yeah,
found.
and it's kind of like a height.
There
There,
you
there
go.
we are. Yep. So there was, all along the river here, there's all kinds of, I want to say there's trails that kind of traverse through all this area, and I think what they do is they make these, especially when they're on the north side of the river, on the when they're on the south side of the river, they have pretty much free reign. Nobody goes over there. But on the north side of the river, there sees a lot more traffic, and I think they make these hiding areas in order to be able to duck into, and I mean, if I had actually crawled in there completely, somebody could have walked past on the trail above me, and they would have never seen me. It was total concealment, and of course, it helped when I actually looked in there and I found a print with a footprint that was in the dirt inside that hidey hole. So
Well, what I love about you is like you know to look for the knuckle prints, you know to look for hand prints, elbow prints, knee prints. Um,
yep,
Now you sent me three like that, and I just had to randomly quickly pick one
yep,
and send it to Zach. Is that a foot or a hand?
that is a foot. That in based on what I remember, I think it was a left foot.
And if you notice, like you said, the pictures don't really do it justice, but that's probably 14 inches across on
That
the
is,
ruler there.
I think that's the width that we're covering on that picture. The other one was doing the length, but yeah, it was about 14, 15, and you could see the toe box on it for sure. But yeah, it was.
And you have to have a trained eye for that because not every print is going to be in mud,
Oh, right.
or
Oh,
in loose sand where it's going to be perfect. So you have to have a trained eye for that.
yeah. This last time I went up, I actually, because my daughter went with me this last time, and uh, it was I surprised her because I actually spotted a centipede track in the sand, and she was like, and I'm like, oh, look at this, it's the centipede track. She's like, how did you even spot that? And I'm like, that's what I do, you know.
That's what you do, man. That's what you do. What else am I forgetting here? What else have you sent us?
I can't remember.
What else is there? Anything else you got there, Jeremy? That Zach sent you?
Yep, that one. Yep. So it's amazing, having this in
I
the.
think we've seen them all.
Yep, I think so.
I
Yep.
think we've seen them all.
So
Very.
in
And
that
I don't want you to
area
give up the
is
location. Don't give up the
is.
location. I don't want
Oh yeah, I won't give
Biggie.
it up, but it's
I don't want Biggie
absolutely
mad at me.
in the desert. It's in the desert, and and they have plenty of water, plenty of food, plenty of cover, and they operate in that area. I started investigating that area because had been 3 or 4 reports that had been sent over to me to go check this area out because of things that had happened. And when I went there, it was obvious of the things that I found first that I said, oh, they're here. And then the more I dug into it, but I'd been wanting to go back and revisit revisit the investigation from 10 years ago, and it certainly didn't disappoint. So,
Well, this is what I'm going to finish with saying is that these things, they're not stupid. And the reason
oh,
why they avoid us so brilliantly in avoiding us is because they know man and they know how bad we are.
yep.
And they don't want nothing to do with us. And I don't blame them. Um, it's just, and that's just the way it is. So,
Yeah, I think they know my intent when I get out in the woods, and that's why they'll come and I don't even see them, right? I'll completely give my trust to them, turn my back, to the woods, right, where they come right into camp, and I'll have my back right to them sitting around the campfire, and it's like I can hear them coming right behind me, but I don't whirl around. I don't. It's just like I'll talk to them, and they're there. It's like I want to interact with them, and I think they know that. So
real quick, and I'm going to try and give Annette a few minutes to just
yeah,
chat with you. I told you that story of that gentleman I know that retired as a forest ranger, and he would from like the age of like late teens till well into his 60s and 70s. He spent most of his adult life as a forest ranger, and he would be out in those towers, way out in the middle of nowhere, with the high-powered binoculars looking for forest fires.
yep,
But he said for a while there were hikers going missing, and they keep that on the down low. They don't advertise it very much. But he said they would go out with these professional teams trying to search for these people that were missing, and sometimes they were told not to come out with their findings, but they clearly have evidence of something being abducted and taken away, and not by a bear or a mountain lion or anything like that. I do think these things can be dangerous, predatory. So I want
yep,
people to not think they're going out finding Harry and the Hendersons. Be careful. And he told me that story of being in a canoe out in the middle of a river that's probably 50 yards wide, and he heard what sounded like something stomping in the ground, obviously letting him know you're coming near my area, stay out in the lake or just go on by. But then he talked about a boulder about half the size of a Volkswagen Bug being launched out of the tree line into the lake right in front of where his canoe was going, and he knew it's time for me to go. So these things can be dangerous.
Yep. Absolutely. No,
Not,
when they want you out of there, you're in your living room. You used up your, your goodwill. Move on. Don't linger.
and I'm going to shut up now and let Annette talk to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Annette.
I was going to ask because I did say about being here in Oklahoma, and you said this was a hot spot.
Mm-hmm.
Are there places in the country where you hardly ever get any reports? Because it used to be mostly Pacific Northwest, and then it turned into people reporting them all over the place.
Yeah. So, it's really funny when I researched out on Long Island. I actually there was no reports. The last report on Long Island was like 1899 in Rockaway Beach, and so I was like, I have no basis of where to look or what to do. So I turned to the paranormal websites of ghost hunting things where they're saying, oh, these woods are haunted. Rocks were thrown at us from thin air at night, or we saw red eyes in the woods of a demon looking at us, or we heard the wails of a mother who, some made up story, whose child had died and she was wailing for her, so all these things. And I said, oh, okay, that's an area of interest. That's an area of interest, and I'd go out to those places and then it'd be like, oh, look at these structures, look at this, and it's like, yep, they're in this area, so that really, and that was fortunate because it was, I kid you not, within walking distance from the hotel that I was staying at for work all the time. Made it really easy to do night investigations.
That is very cool. So, when did you have your first paranormal experience, and then how did that kind of turn into an interest in Bigfoot?
So, my first paranormal experience was when I was 5 years old, and that was with ghosts. And I think Sean and I talked about that the last time, but it went on from that when I was about 12. Yeah, I was 12. I saw a UFO that was massive. It was and silent, and it was just and the air. It was like the air was still, or like there was no air around you. It was a strange feeling. Anyway, but fast forward, I always believed in Bigfoot. I saw the Bigfoot stuff. I had the Argosy magazine. My dad was a subscriber when I was a kid, and I thought that issue from Bigfoot was really neat, and whatever, it's a good possibility. And then fast forward to 2008, I was trying to expand my son's mind, and I said, and he was like, "Oh, Bigfoot isn't real." And I go, "It's never been proven. How do you know? Unless we get out there." So we went on an expedition with the BFRO, and on that very first night, heard responses from 3 different directions, and from that point on, I said, "I need to find out what that is."
Wow.
So here I am.
Well, in the
What a
couple of
journey.
minutes I have left before we have to say goodbye to you, let's get a quick movie review on Sasquatch
Oh,
Sunset,
so
which I'm calling. I haven't seen it, but I'm calling it the X-rated version and a sequel, the X-rated sequel to Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, although it's really funny, they actually did portray them as, that they were, friends of all animals in the forest, and whatever, that they were not omnivores, and they're definitely omnivores. Based on the elk and the deer that I've found, and they love marrow. I mean, they'll break bones and suck the marrow out of them. Anyway, but Sasquatch Sunset, there was a lot of course, somebody could say, how could you say there's inaccuracies when Bigfoot doesn't exist, right? But I'm telling you, there's a lot of inaccuracies, but oddly enough, I mean, there was enough that was right that actually kept me engaged in watching it, but a lot of times there was, I want to say, it bordered on the absurd, because they really portrayed them as kind of dumb or very naive, and
And
with
there's a
no
lot of
strength
Sasquatch
whatsoever.
sex.
Yeah, I mean, well, I don't want to launch any spoilers here, but
Yeah.
that they have their strength is unbelievable, and in this movie, there's they're anyway. I won't say. I won't go into it.
So, so
You'll have to
you
see
would.
it.
It's not a great movie, but you would recommend it for somebody who's really into Sasquatch, just to say you saw it and then
Right.
come to your own conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, there was a lot of absurdity in it, especially from. But the funniest part when I actually went through the credits and seeing that they actually hired an anthropologist in order to be the expert consultant for the movie, and I was like, what the heck did that guy know anything about? I mean, I was like, there were some things that I was like, oh, they're doing this right, and they're putting a structure together. Oh, look at that, that's fantastic. And then the next morning they take the structure down. I'm like, they don't take structures down, they'll reuse them until they can't use them anymore, or they move on. It's anyway.
Well, Annette, is there anything you would like? I'm glad you two got to meet. Is there anything you'd like to say to Carl before I kick him out of here, so he can get out there and visit Sasquatch again?
I so enjoyed this. I just had the best time. Now,
That's
if
good.
I'm ever out in the woods and people start clicking rocks together, I'm probably going to start crying. But or hitting a tree with a limb or a stick or something, be like, no.
When I saw that one run at full tilt in the daylight, and it was so impossibly large, so muscular, so fast. It was one of those things, those eye-opening things. I said, you know what? At any given time, they could take me, and they don't. And there's really nothing I could do about it. So either I sign off and don't go into the woods anymore, or I continue to research them. And I think it's a level of trust.
Well, listen, brother, I love you. I respect you. I always love it when you're on. I'm going to give you a few months to, get some more squatching under your belt and some experiences and some stories, and I'll have you back, I promise, before the year's over, and we'll talk some more about this.
Okay. I look forward to it.
Karl, sup. I love you, brother. I'll see you later.
Thank you, Karl. So much fun.
Nice
Great
meeting
show.
you,
Really enjoyed it.
All right.
Good night, brother. I love him. He's so cool.
I just love him. That was so much fun, so interesting.
I wish I was more of an outdoorsy person. I would go out with him, but I'm just not. I wish, I get nightmares when I watch an episode of Naked and Afraid. I have nightmares about it.
I don't know why anybody would do that. I don't even think they give you money. What do you win? I feel like, okay, I won. I won big mosquito bite and sunburn. Where's my check? And there isn't anything. So.
Well, listen, I love and respect you too. You know that I'm so glad you were able to make it today. Let's all keep Adrian in our prayers. And I didn't do the prayer urn today or the mailbag because I wanted to get to Karl and get to the photos. But everybody that sent me in prayers, I promise you I will be personally looking at your prayer requests and offering up prayers for you when I say Mass later and lighting candles and all that. So I didn't forget you. I just decided to get into Karl's photos and all that. What I want to add before I say goodbye to you, Annette, is please have a wonderful remainder of your Memorial Day weekend and be safe, okay?
And you as well. Thank you so much. It was a great show.
I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. I love Karl. I love Annette. I love Bigfoot. I haven't met one in person. I think, like I said, I've told the story before. I don't think I put it in my book, either one of my books, but an overnight hiking trip, camping trip with a bunch of friends when I was in junior high school. Thought I had one. And maybe next time Karl's on, I'll tell that story. But thank you all for being here. I don't have a show without each and every one of you. Like I said, please keep Adrian Clayton in your prayers. Hope she's okay. As soon as I know what happened and how she is, I'll let you all know. I'm going to go ahead and post Karl's photos because there's about 7 more that I didn't send to Zach that I'll post on my show page for everybody to look at afterwards. Thank you so much to Jeremy York for taking over for Zach today. Thank you to usocc.org, bishopjameslong.com, the church that I belong to. Go there, check out those websites. You'll find the link to night prayer, which is every weeknight at 7 p.m. Pacific, and the links to Bible study, which is Wednesday afternoon, Sunday afternoons at 5 p.m. Pacific. Check those out. Next week's guest. Oh, you guys are going to love my guest next week. Oh, Monday. I'm sorry, guys. No happy medium Monday, Memorial Day, this Monday, because it's Memorial Day. And I know that Susan Ahern has things to do. So we're not going to have a show this coming Monday. But next Friday, I have the co-hosts of the Supernatural Substation on the show. Alan Pustanio and Bernadine Richardson will both be here next Friday. So thank you. Check out Zach's website at communitypayitforward.us. And here's all the networks I want to thank from the bottom of my heart for co-producing the show. Things Network, Pact, Little P, capital ACT, Podcasting for All Coming Together channel, Parapost Network Central, Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment, and Spirit Alabama. Thank you to all those networks for simulcasting my show. Now it's bad joke time. I'm going to pull a bad joke that one of you sent in out of this, and you sent in a bunch of them this past week or two. And it's my poor attempt to put a smile on everybody's face before I say good night and have everyone have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. What is Forrest Gump's email password? OneForrest1. Thank you all for tuning in. Like I said, I don't have a show without all of you. Good night, Jack. Good night, Dog. Good night, Harold. Rest in peace. Good night, Ernie. Good night, Bill. Good night, Dan. Good night to all of you. God bless you all in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Peace.